The following is an ESG On Location video.
The show season continues back in Vegas. This week it's IBM Edge, the Infrastructure Innovation Conference, as they like to call it. Now usually, look behind me, there's IBM and their partners with hardware and solutions, and usually this sort of thing is all about the innovation that's going on with the infrastructure. Here the emphasis is on what that actually does for people. And as my colleague Scott Sinclair and I found, one of the first things we had to do was adjust our brains to the way that IBM doesn't look from the infrastructure out, but from the outcomes to the infrastructure. And so that means a real change of perspective is necessary.
There's a growing consensus that the IT world is changing, thanks in part to the rise of mobility, the Internet of Things, and big data analytics. Despite this consensus, different vendors are responding differently. Some are focusing on the infrastructure, others are focusing on a broader ecosystem, looking at solutions that are both on and off premise. IBM is taking it one step further by focusing on the business value that can be achieved through advanced data analytics. That's not to say that IBM's forgetting about storage. Recently, they announced that they're investing $1 billion in both software-defined storage and solid-state moving forward. However, with all the amazing stories around how IBM is using advanced data analytics to help Fortune 500 companies achieve maximum business value and helping create smart cities, the question remains, how does this story translate to small and mid-sized organizations? The addition of a hyper-converged solution may help their adoption in that space or help their penetration into smaller mid-sized organizations. Ultimately, it may not matter. IBM's true goal is to create a conversation around how are organizations using their data to maximize their business value. And in those conversations, storage is a means to an end rather than an end itself.
So as Scott said, storage is very much a means to an end rather than the other way around. And that's true of everything IBM has from the infrastructure perspective. You've got Watson that everyone knows about. You've got neurosynaptic processing, which is on its way. They have some marvelous means, but again, it's the ends that matter. So whether that's the Smarter City initiatives or the stories we heard about parking in LA or whatever it might be, it's the outcomes that really matter to IBM. I kicked this off by talking about the different perspective that one has to have when you're dealing with IBM. After all, this is more than a century-old company that's managed to innovate and reinvent itself multiple times to stay relevant. So I just want to emphasize that big picture, but come back to storage since that's what Scott and I cover. And what really hit me here is that there may be a different perspective that you have to have, but part of that perspective is what we think of what they are doing, and clearly their focus on storage and how they apply that to all those outcomes is as intense, as compelling, and as broad as it's ever been.